Ladies and gentlemen, there is nothing more powerful, more unshakable, and more unstoppable than a woman who has healed, a woman who has walked through her storm, faced her pain, and decided that her past will no longer define her. She becomes a force this world cannot contain. A healed woman doesn't chase validation. She carries it within her. She doesn't need applause. She's found her peace. She's not moved by opinions because she's anchored in truth. The same fire that once burned her now fuels her purpose. When a woman heals, everything around her shifts. Her energy changes. Her standards rise. Her voice becomes clear, not because she's louder, but because she's finally speaking from a place of wholeness, not wounds. She's no longer reacting to what broke her. She's creating from what rebuilt her. A healed woman is not the same woman who cried herself to sleep. She's the woman who prays with confidence, walks with grace, and loves with discernment. She's learned that peace is not found in the approval of others, in the acceptance of herself. Her healing gives her vision. She no longer settles for half-hearted love, half-lived dreams, or one-sided friendships. She sees beyond surface level promises because her spirit recognizes authenticity. You can't manipulate a woman who's done the work. You can't deceive a woman who's met her pain face to face and survived it. When she heals, her lineage heals. Her children feel it. Her home feels it. Work feels it. Her community feels it. Because when a woman rises from her brokenness, she doesn't rise alone. She carries generations with her. That's why a healed woman is dangerous, because she embodies transformation. She walks in faith, not fear. She gives without losing herself. She forgives without forgetting who she is. She loves, but she knows when to walk away. She doesn't seek power. She is power, refined by pain, strengthened by truth, and guided by divine wisdom. So to every woman healing right now, don't rush your process. Every tear, every scar, every silent night, it's preparing you for the version of yourself this world has yet to see. You are becoming the kind of woman who cannot be broken again because you've already learned how to rebuild. There comes a moment in every journey when pain feels unbearable, when life seems unfair, when the weight of your experiences threatens to crush the very essence of who you are. You question the purpose of your suffering, meaning behind your tears, and the reason for your breaking. But it is often in that very breaking that transformation begins. Healing does not start when everything makes sense. It begins when you decide that pain will no longer define you, but refine you. Pain is a teacher that no one asks for, yet it teaches the lessons that comfort never could. It humbles you, strips you, and forces you to confront yourself. It makes you see what truly matters and what never did. It exposes the areas that were pretending to be whole. And though it hurts, it prepares the ground for growth. You cannot rise without first being broken. You cannot be strong without first being tested. Every scar you carry tells a story not of defeat, but of survival, resilience, and rebirth. Healing is not an overnight miracle. It's a sacred process. It's waking up one day realizing the pain doesn't sting as much as it used to. It's finding yourself laughing again, dreaming again, believing again. It's the quiet moments where you choose peace instead of chaos, forgiveness instead of bitterness, and hope instead of despair. Healing is not pretending the pain never happened. It's declaring that it will not control your future. When you begin to heal, you start to see your pain differently. What once felt like punishment now becomes preparation. You realize that every disappointment taught you discernment. Heartbreak built your boundaries. Every betrayal opened your eyes to the power of self-trust. Very moments that tried to destroy you are the same moments that shaped you into a stronger, wiser, and more compassionate version of yourself. Pain transforms into power the moment you decide to rise above it. Power doesn't come from ignoring your hurt. It comes from facing it with courage. It comes from saying, yes, I've been broken, but I am not staying there. It's reclaiming your story. It's looking at the same scars that once brought shame and saying, these are my proof that I survived what was meant to end me. Power is not about control over others. It's about mastery over yourself. It's the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you can handle whatever comes next because you've already faced worse and made it through. Healing also changes the way you love. When you're still wounded, you love from a place of need. You seek people to fill the gaps in your soul. When you heal, you love from abundance. You stop begging for attention or approval. You stop chasing what doesn't honor your peace. You love because your heart is full, not because it's empty. You give not to be accepted, but because you are already whole. That kind of love is powerful. It's liberating, fearless, and pure. A healed soul is a dangerous one, not because it seeks to harm, because it can no longer be controlled by pain. People who heal become light bearers. They inspire others through their strength, their grace, their authenticity. They don't need to shout their power. It radiates naturally. Their presence alone carries wisdom that words cannot describe. They've been through the fire and come out refined. They've been to the valley and learned how to climb mountains again. Healing transforms pain into purpose. What once hurt you now serves you. You begin to see your journey not as a series of losses, but as a divine assignment. Pain that once silenced you becomes the message that sets others free. You find meaning in your suffering, not because it was easy, but because it birthed something beautiful within you, resilience, compassion, and strength. When you heal, you take back your power from every person, place, and situation that ever tried to diminish it. You stop waiting for closure from others and start giving it to yourself. You stop apologizing for your boundaries, your growth, your peace. You realize that healing is not selfish, it's sacred. Because when you heal, you no longer bleed on people who didn't cut you. You stop repeating cycles and start creating legacies. There's a power that comes from surviving what should have destroyed you. Quiet confidence that whispers, if I made it through that, I can make it through anything. Healing is the birthplace of strength. It's where warriors are made, not in comfort, but in challenge. It's in the long nights of self-reflection, the tears that cleanse your soul, prayers whispered when no one else is watching. Healing does not erase the past, but it redeems it. It takes what was once painful and turns it into purpose. You learn to thank the pain for what it taught you. You stop asking, why did this happen to me? And start saying, what did this awaken in me? You begin to see how every moment was guiding you toward growth, shaping your destiny, preparing you for the strength you now carry. When pain transforms into power, you no longer live as a victim of your story. You become the author of it. You write new chapters filled with grace, confidence, and peace. You realize that what was meant to break you actually built you. What was meant to silence you gave you a voice. What was meant to end you was only the beginning of your evolution. So, don't curse your pain. Understand it. Don't rush your healing. Respect it. Because the process is making you powerful in ways comfort never could. The woman who heals becomes a warrior. She carries peace like armor, wisdom like a weapon, and love like a revolution. She doesn't need to prove her strength. It shows in the way she rises, the way she forgives, and the way she moves forward with grace. Pain is temporary, but the power born from healing is eternal. The storm may have shaken you. It didn't destroy you. You came out stronger, wiser, and more grounded. And that power, the power of a healed soul, is what will light your path forward and illuminate the lives of those who follow. Because in the end, healing is not just about feeling better. It's about becoming better. It's about transforming what once hurt you into the very thing that empowers you to walk boldly into your purpose. And when that transformation happens, you look back not with bitterness, but with gratitude, knowing that every wound had a reason and every scar carried wisdom. That is the beauty of healing. It turns your pain to power, your struggles into strength, and your past into purpose. And once that happens, there's no force on earth that can stop the light of a healed soul from shining. Confidence is not built from attention, approval, or applause. It is born from wholeness. It comes from knowing who you are beyond your titles, your looks, your possessions, and your past. Real confidence doesn't need to shout or prove itself. It stands firm in silence because it is anchored in truth. When you are whole within yourself, you don't chase validation. You carry assurance. You don't seek to impress. You move with purpose. The world often teaches us that confidence comes from success, beauty, or popularity. But those things are temporary. They fade, shift, and change with seasons. True confidence, however, is unshakable because it's not built on what can be taken away. It's rooted in who you've become through your healing growth. Self-awareness. When you reach a place of inner wholeness, you no longer depend on others to remind you of your value. You already know it. Wholeness is about alignment. It's when your mind, heart, and spirit walk in agreement. It's when you stop living in contradiction, saying one thing but feeling another, pretending to be fine while carrying silent pain. Wholeness is when you decide to stop performing and start living truthfully. When you live in truth, confidence flows naturally because you're no longer hiding behind masks or fears. You become authentic, and authenticity is the birthplace of real power. Confidence that comes from wholeness doesn't crumble under criticism. It doesn't shrink in the face of rejection. It doesn't depend on being chosen. Because when you are whole, you realize that being overlooked is not the same as being unworthy. You stop begging for a seat at tables that weren't built for you. You stop trying to convince people of your value. You stop shrinking yourself to fit into spaces that cannot hold the fullness of your spirit. Wholeness allows you to move differently. You start showing up with peace in your eyes and power in your presence. You walk into rooms with a calm strength that doesn't need to dominate or compete. You are comfortable in your own skin because you've done the work to heal what once made you doubt yourself. You no longer measure your worth by how others treat you because you understand that people's perception of you is not your responsibility. It's a reflection of them. When you are whole, confidence becomes your natural state of being. You stop comparing your journey to anyone else's because you recognize that your path is sacred. You understand that timing is divine and that what's meant for you cannot be missed. You learn to clap for others without feeling smaller. You learn to stand alone without feeling lonely. You learn to rest without guilt. That's what wholeness gives you. Balance, peace, and the freedom to just be. Confident, whole person is not easily shaken by external noise. They can hear the whispers, the doubts, the opinions, and still remain centered. Because their confidence is internal. It's not built on fragile foundations like validation or attention. It's built on inner peace, on self-acceptance, on the knowing that they are enough even without recognition. That's why when a whole person walks into chaos, they bring calm instead of confusion. Their energy speaks louder than their words. But this kind of confidence doesn't appear overnight. It's built through seasons of breaking and rebuilding. You gain confidence when you face your insecurities and choose to love yourself anyway. You gain confidence when you set boundaries that protect your peace. You gain confidence when you stop tolerating things that drain your spirit. Every time you choose yourself, every time you honor your truth, every time you refuse to shrink, you strengthen the foundation of your wholeness. Confidence from wholeness also changes how you love. You no longer attach your value to who stays or who leaves. You don't chase love. You attract it through your peace, your authenticity, and your self-respect. You are whole. You stop settling for half-hearted attention and inconsistent affection. You desire connection that matches your growth, not your wounds. You don't confuse chemistry with compatibility or attachment with love. You love deeply, but you no longer lose yourself in the process. There's a quiet beauty in a confident soul that knows they are complete with or without company. Because wholeness doesn't mean isolation, it means independence. It means you are no longer afraid of solitude because you've learned to enjoy your own presence. You've learned that peace is not found in people, but in your connection with your own heart and your Creator. That kind of peace radiates outward, draws people who recognize your strength, not those who wish to exploit it. Confidence rooted in wholeness also brings humility. You no longer need to prove that you're better than anyone. You simply focus on being better than who you were yesterday. You celebrate others without envy. You encourage others without fear of being overshadowed. You understand that your light doesn't dim someone else's. It adds to the collective brightness of the world. Wholeness reminds you that confidence and compassion can coexist. Power and gentleness can live in the same soul. Confidence is not arrogance. Arrogance says, I'm better than you. Confidence says, I'm secure in who I am. When you are whole, you don't need to boast because your peace speaks for itself. You don't need to manipulate or impress because your authenticity already inspires. You don't need to compete because you understand that no one can take what was divinely meant for you. There is a power that radiates from a whole person. It's not loud, but it's undeniable. It's in the way they carry themselves, the way they forgive, the way they stay calm in storms that used to break them. You can feel it in their presence, the stillness, the grace, the authority. They've been through too much to be easily shaken. I challenge you, they've learned that losing people doesn't mean losing themselves. They've learned that rejection is redirection, and endings are simply transitions to something better. Confidence born from wholeness gives you the courage to walk away from anything that doesn't align with your peace. It empowers you to speak your truth without fear of being misunderstood. It teaches you that being true to yourself is more valuable than being accepted by others. It strengthens you to stand firm in your boundaries, your beliefs, and your purpose. When you become whole, you stop living for the applause and start living for alignment. You no longer chase what looks good. You pursue what feels right. You stop trying to impress people who will never understand your growth. You realize that confidence is not about being perfect. It's about being real. It's about standing in your truth, even when it's uncomfortable. Confidence that comes from wholeness transforms your life. It changes how you move, how you speak, how you love, and how you dream. It gives you peace in uncertainty, joy in simplicity, and strength in solitude. You stop waiting for external validation because you've already given yourself internal permission to be enough. You stop apologizing for your strength, your voice, your light. You stop hiding your greatness out of fear of being too much. Because the truth is, you are not too much, you are whole. When you are whole, you become powerful beyond measure. You become a living example of what happens when a soul decides to heal, to grow, to love itself back to life. Confidence doesn't come from having everything figured out. It comes from trusting yourself even when you don't. It comes from knowing that no matter what happens, you have the strength to rise again. That is the essence of wholeness. That is the foundation of real confidence. And once you reach that place, nothing and no one can take it away from you. There comes a moment in every woman's journey when she gets tired of chaos, tired of proving herself, tired of carrying what was never hers to hold. She begins to crave something deeper than attention, louder than applause, and stronger than control. She begins to crave peace. Because when a woman chooses peace, she is choosing herself. And that choice, simple yet sacred, changes everything. Peace doesn't come when everything around her is calm. Peace begins when she decides to no longer participate in anything that disturbs her spirit. It's not found in people, possessions, or positions. It's found in presence. It's in the quiet mornings when she breathes before the world demands something from her. It's in the boundaries she builds, the silence she honors, the stillness she learns to embrace. Peace becomes her priority because she finally understands that nothing she loses by protecting her peace was ever meant to stay. For so long, she may have confused love with sacrifice, giving too much, forgiving too quickly, staying too long in spaces that drained her. Healing has taught her that peace is not selfish, it's essential. She realizes that she can't pour from an empty cup. She can't heal others while ignoring her own wounds. She can't chase harmony with people who thrive on conflict. So she begins to withdraw from noise and choose herself, not out of pride, but out of wisdom. When peace becomes her priority, she no longer entertains arguments that go nowhere. She doesn't explain herself to people who are committed to misunderstanding her. She stops trying to prove her worth and starts walking in it. Her energy shifts, her voice softens, her standards rise, because peace changes the way she lives, speaks, and loves. It teaches her that her presence doesn't have to be everywhere. It just has to be aligned with where she's valued and respected. Peace teaches her discernment. Not every invitation deserves her yes. Not every opportunity is divine. Not every connection is healthy. She learns to pause before reacting, to listen before speaking, to pray before deciding. She learns that not everything requires a response. Everyone deserves access to her heart. Some battles are won by silence. Some victories are found in walking away. When she chooses peace, Her world may grow smaller, but it becomes richer. She stops chasing people who don't choose her. She stops begging for closure from those who broke her. She stops explaining her boundaries to those who never intended to respect them. Instead, she surrounds herself with people who bring calm instead of chaos, truth instead of gossip, presence instead of pretense. She starts attracting what matches her energy because peace has raised her vibration. Peaceful woman carries a different kind of power. It's not loud or demanding, it's steady and undeniable. You can see it in the way she moves, unbothered by drama, uninterested in validation, unconcerned with competition. She knows who she is and what she deserves. She no longer chases what she's outgrown. Her calmness becomes her confidence. Her silence becomes her strategy. Her peace becomes her proof of strength. Peace also changes how she views her past. She stops resenting the pain that broke her and begins to thank it for what it taught her. She realizes that every disappointment redirected her towards something better. Every ending protected her from something smaller than her destiny. Every loss was preparation for something greater. Peace allows her to see the purpose behind her pain and to bless the very moments she once cursed. When peace becomes her priority, forgiveness becomes her freedom. She no longer carries resentment like armor. She understands that forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation. It means release. She lets go of the bitterness that once held her hostage. Not because they deserve peace, but because she does. She chooses to release the weight of grudges because peace feels lighter than revenge. Peace also redefines her definition of success. She no longer measures her worth by how much she achieves or how busy she stays. She values rest, stillness, and emotional clarity. She realizes that peace of mind is the highest form of wealth and a calm spirit is the ultimate luxury. She stops striving for perfection and starts living with intention. She stops needing to be everything to everyone and starts being enough for herself. Peaceful woman becomes a mirror of divine alignment. She trusts timing, releases control, and surrenders outcomes. She doesn't chase what's uncertain, she flows with what's meant. She stops asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start saying, "What is this teaching me?" Because she understands that peace doesn't come from avoiding life. It comes from embracing it with faith and grace. Her peace is her power. It guards her heart from emotional chaos. It shields her mind from negative thoughts. It protects her energy from people who drain it. It allows her to walk through storms with calm because she knows who controls the wind. She doesn't need to fight every battle, respond to every attack, justify every decision. Her peace speaks louder than her defense ever could. When peace becomes her priority, her love deepens. She loves without losing herself. She gives without expectation. She nurtures without exhaustion. Because her love now flows from wholeness, not from wounds. She's no longer trying to fix others. She's inspiring them by how she's fixed herself. Presence brings calm to others because she carries heaven within her heart. But peace comes with sacrifice. It requires letting go of people, habits, and versions of herself that no longer align with her growth. It means saying no to drama, no to manipulation, no to anything that costs her mental stability. It means walking away from good things that are not right things. It means trusting that what's meant for her will never require her to lose herself to keep it. Peace is her new standard. If it costs her peace, it's too expensive. If it drains her energy, it's not worth it. If it disturbs her spirit, doesn't belong in her life. She no longer allows emotions to dictate her direction. She leads with wisdom, walks with grace, chooses peace even when chaos calls her name. Beautiful thing about a peaceful woman is that she doesn't need to announce her healing. You can feel it. Her peace radiates. Her smile is softer. Her energy feels safe. She moves like someone who's seen darkness and decided to live in light. She's been through storms that could have broken her. Instead, they built her. She's learned that peace is not the absence of problems, but the presence of perspective. So when peace becomes her priority, her life becomes her sanctuary. She wakes up grateful, not fearful. She speaks gently, not reactively. She walks confidently, not hurriedly. She prays more and worries less. She knows that peace is not something she finds. It's something she creates daily by choosing alignment over anxiety. purpose over pressure, and calm over chaos. She no longer fights for attention. She flows in direction. She no longer chases outcomes. She trusts divine timing. She no longer allows external noise to silence her inner knowing, because peace has become her foundation, her fortress, her compass, her crown. A woman who has chosen peace is no longer easy to manipulate, provoke, or break. She's not cold, she's centered. She's not distant, she's discerning. She's not weak, she's wise. And in that wisdom, she's found her greatest power, the ability to walk away from anything that disturbs her peace and still smile while doing it. When peace becomes her priority, she becomes unstoppable, not because she's loud or fearless, but because she's calm, grounded, and whole. Her peace is her revolution. Her calm is her crown. And her serenity is the proof that she's finally free. There comes a season in a woman's life when she begins to see differently, not through the lens of emotion, but through the eyes of wisdom. It's the moment when she realizes that not everything that glitters is gold, not every invitation is divine, and not every voice that praises her is pure. Through healing, heartbreak, and spiritual growth, she learns that discernment is not just a gift, it's her greatest shield. Discernment is the quiet knowing that rises when her spirit feels what her eyes cannot see. It's the gentle whisper that warns her when something is off, even if everything looks right. It's the sense that pulls her back when her heart wants to rush forward. It's the strength that allows her to say no, even when yes would be easier. Discernment is her inner guard, protecting her peace, her energy, and her destiny. When a woman begins to value peace over attention and alignment over attachment, discernment awakens within her. She no longer chases every opportunity or entertains every connection. She pauses, she observes, and she prays, because she's learned that just because something is available doesn't mean it's meant for her. She understands that every door isn't an open door from God. Some are distractions dressed as blessings. Discernment keeps her from repeating old cycles. It helps her recognize familiar spirits in new faces. It whispers to her when patterns return disguised as people. It allows her to see the difference between chemistry and compatibility, between attention and intention, between effort and manipulation. She no longer moves based on flattery, she moves by peace. She doesn't get swept away by charm, she looks for character. Discernment has taught her that not everyone who enters her life comes to add value. Some come to test her growth. As she heals, her discernment sharpens. She starts to notice how energy feels, not just how words sound. She reads actions more than apologies. She notices consistency more than promises. And in doing so, she saves herself from unnecessary heartbreak. Her spirit becomes her compass, guiding her away from chaos and toward clarity. She listens more deeply, speaks more wisely, and walks more intentionally. Discernment doesn't make her cold, it makes her cautious. It doesn't make her fearful, it makes her faithful. She trusts that when her spirit says something isn't right, she must listen. She's learned that ignoring her intuition is often the most expensive mistake. Discernment protects her not only from others, but from her old self, the version of her that used to confuse attention for love, potential for purpose, comfort for peace. When discernment becomes her shield, she no longer needs to fight every battle with words. She lets her silence do the work. She no longer argues with people who twist truth to fit their narrative. She doesn't explain her boundaries to those committed to crossing them. She understands that discernment will always expose what's hidden. Time always reveals what prayer has already warned her about. Discernment changes her relationships. She stops giving access to everyone who asks for it. She becomes intentional with her circle, recognizing that proximity is power. She knows that the people she surrounds herself with either push her toward purpose or pull her toward distraction. So she guards her space, not out of arrogance, but out of awareness. She's no longer desperate to be included because she's learned that alignment is more important than attention. Discernment also changes how she reacts. She no longer rushes to respond. She takes time to reflect. She's not triggered by every offense because she understands that not everything deserves her energy. She chooses her peace over pettiness, her growth over gossip, her silence over unnecessary confrontation. She knows when to speak truth and when to simply walk away, Because sometimes wisdom is knowing that not every battle needs to be fought. Some just need to be released. A woman who walks in discernment carries quiet confidence. She no longer questions every decision because she's in tune with her spirit. She can feel when a season is ending, even before circumstances confirm it. She senses when to move, when to wait, when to stay silent, and when to speak. She doesn't rely on signs or approval. She trusts divine guidance. That's what discernment gives her, direction rooted in faith, not fear. Discernment becomes her shield in love, too. She no longer confuses red flags for potential. She stops falling for words that aren't backed by action. She doesn't romanticize inconsistency. She loves deeply, but wisely. She no longer invests her energy in people who only show up when it's convenient. Her discernment allows her to see the truth even when her heart wants to deny it. She understands that love without peace, not love, it's bondage. Discernment doesn't only protect her from others, it elevates her within herself. It helps her recognize she's slipping into old habits. Fear is disguising itself as caution, or when pride is masking pain. She learns to check her spirit, not just her circumstances. She becomes accountable to herself. Her discernment refines her character, teaching her that maturity is not about age, but awareness. Through discernment, she learns that not everything requires her presence. Some seasons call for stillness, some call for strategy, and others call for surrender. She doesn't force outcomes anymore. She trusts that if something doesn't flow, it's not meant to grow. She no longer chases what resists her because discernment has taught her that rejection is often divine protection in disguise. Discernment gives her peace in uncertainty. She doesn't panic when plans fall apart because she knows that what's meant for her cannot miss her. She no longer questions every closed door. She thanks God for the redirection. She no longer clings to people out of fear of losing them because she understands that what's divinely connected will never require her to compromise her worth. Discernment shields her from anxiety by anchoring her in faith. A discerning woman is dangerous, not because she fights loudly, but because she moves wisely. Her strength is in her stillness. Her power is in her perception. She sees through masks, through manipulation, through false intentions. Discernment doesn't expose others to embarrass them. It exposes truth to protect her purpose. She doesn't retaliate when wronged, she releases. Because she knows that discernment will always reveal what deceit tries to hide. When discernment becomes her shield, she doesn't live reactively, she lives intentionally. She doesn't waste time trying to fix what was never hers to repair. She doesn't chase answers that peace has already given her. She doesn't need confirmation from others when her spirit has already spoken. She lives led, not driven, guided, not pressured. Her life becomes lighter, her choices clearer, her peace deeper. She no longer fears being misunderstood because discernment reminds her that not everyone is meant to understand her assignment. She no longer fears solitude because she knows that stillness sharpens her spirit. She no longer fears loss because discernment assures her that what leaves is clearing space for what's better. In the end, discernment becomes her protection, her compass, her armor. It keeps her from returning to what broke her. It keeps her grounded when life shakes her. It keeps her wise when emotions try to lead her astray. Beauty of discernment is that it doesn't just guard her from danger, it guides her toward destiny. She moves differently now, more quietly, more purposefully, more spiritually aware. Her discernment has become her shield, not made of steel, but a spirit. It guards her heart, her peace, her purpose. It keeps her from wasting her energy on what was never meant for her and prepares her for everything that is. A woman who walks in discernment cannot be deceived easily, distracted often, or destroyed quietly. She is guided by something greater, an inner knowing, divine awareness, a sacred wisdom that protects her path. Her discernment is her strength, her silence is her power, peace is her proof that she has grown beyond confusion and into clarity. When discernment becomes her shield, she becomes unshakable. Because while others chase appearances, she listens to truth. While others rush ahead, she waits for peace. And in that stillness, she is protected, powerful, perfectly aligned with her purpose. Healing is not just a personal journey, it's a spiritual revolution that touches everything and everyone connected to you. When a woman begins to heal, It doesn't stop with her. Her transformation becomes a wave of change that ripples outward, shifting her family, her relationships, her children, her community, and even generations that come after her. Healing is contagious in the most divine way. It spreads peace, wisdom, love into places that once carried pain, silence, and confusion. For so long, many women carry wounds that weren't even theirs to bear. Generational pain, emotional neglect, heartbreak, trauma, expectations, all the things that were passed down quietly from one heart to another. But when she decides to heal, truly heal, she is not just saving herself, she is breaking patterns that have lived in her family for decades. Courage becomes a doorway through which future generations will walk freely. She is the chain breaker, the cycle ender, the one who said, pain stops with me. Healing is not easy. It is raw, messy, and often lonely. It forces her to confront everything she used to hide. It makes her sit with emotions she used to avoid. It pulls her out of old patterns and into self-awareness. But each tear that falls, each truth she faces, each boundary she sets becomes an act of liberation, not just for her, but for those watching her. Her healing teaches her children that it's okay to feel, that it's okay to rest, that it's okay to choose peace over perfection. It shows her friends that strength isn't found in pretending to be fine, in the honesty of saying, I'm still learning, but I'm growing. When a woman heals, her energy shifts. And energy is powerful. Where she once carried tension, she now radiates calm. Where she once reacted with pain, she now responds with wisdom. Her home feels different. Presence feels lighter. Her words carry more grace. People used to feel chaos around her begin to feel comfort. Without even trying, she becomes a source of stability for others because her peace has become her presence. Healing creates ripple effects because it changes the atmosphere she carries with her. When she enters a room, she doesn't bring her wounds, she brings her wisdom. She doesn't mirror the pain of others, she reflects healing. Challenge is no longer the woman who takes everything personally, who pleases everyone, who tries to fix what's broken in others while ignoring herself. She's the woman who listens with compassion but protects her boundaries. She gives love freely, but never at the expense of her own peace. That kind of balance inspires others to seek their own. The ripple effect of healing reaches deep into relationships. When she heals, she stops loving from her wounds and starts loving from wholeness. She no longer seeks people to complete her. She connects with those who complement her. Her standards shift, her patience becomes healthier, her communication grows softer but stronger. She begins to teach others how to love her correctly simply by how she loves herself. She doesn't demand respect, she embodies it. She doesn't chase loyalty, she attracts it. Healing also transforms how she mothers, how she leads, how she nurtures. When she heals, she raises her children differently. She speaks with patience instead of projection. She listens without dismissing their emotions. She teaches through example that emotions are not weaknesses, they are signals. She shows her sons how to honor women and her daughters how to honor themselves. In healing, she rewrites the emotional language of her lineage. She turns what was once silence into safety and what was once pain into protection. The ripple effect of healing goes beyond her home. It flows into her work, her friendships, and her community. People begin to notice that she carries something different, a peace that can't be faked, a confidence that doesn't compete, a love that doesn't drain. She becomes a walking testimony that healing is possible. Her story becomes a lighthouse for others still navigating their storms. Without even realizing it, she gives others permission to slow down, to feel, to release, to begin. The ripple effect of healing is also spiritual. When she heals, connection with God deepens. She stops asking for things to change and starts asking for understanding. She stops praying for avoidance of pain and starts praying for wisdom to grow through it. Her faith becomes rooted in trust, not in fear. She starts to see divine purpose in every delay, every disappointment, and every detour. That faith creates a peace that spreads to those around her. They begin to see how she stands firm even in uncertainty, how she smiles even in process, how she glows even after grief. Healing creates ripples because it changes how she reacts to the world. Before healing, she may have responded to pain with anger, to rejection with fear, to conflict with defensiveness. After healing, she responds with grace, with discernment, with calm. Her strength is no longer loud, it's steady. Her boundaries are no longer walls, they're gates that guard her peace. Her forgiveness no longer means forgetting, it means freeing herself from bitterness. That kind of maturity doesn't just protect her, transforms those who encounter her. When a healed woman speaks, her words carry weight because they come from experience, not ego. She doesn't preach perfection, she speaks from the process. She tells others that healing is not linear. There are days you'll fall back into old emotions, but that doesn't mean you've failed. It means you're still learning. Her honesty becomes someone else's encouragement. Her survival becomes someone else's hope. Her testimony becomes someone else's turning point. Healing creates ripple effects because it multiplies light. You cannot truly heal without inspiring someone else to do the same. The same courage that helped her walk out of her darkness becomes the same courage that helps others step into their light. She begins to attract people who are ready to grow, ready to release, ready to evolve. Her healing becomes a mirror, showing others that transformation is possible. But healing also brings responsibility, because once she knows peace, she cannot go back to chaos. Once she knows truth, she cannot return to denial. Once she experiences freedom, she cannot tolerate bondage. She must continue protecting the peace she worked for, nurturing the growth she prayed for, and walking in the wisdom she earned. Because if she lets her light dim, the ripples begin to fade. Healing is not a one-time event. It's a daily decision to choose peace, truth, love over pain, fear, and bitterness. And that decision continues to spread. Every boundary she enforces teaches others to respect theirs. Every act of forgiveness teaches others that release is more powerful than revenge. Every moment of grace she extends teaches others that love doesn't have to hurt. Every time she chooses peace over pettiness, she changes the energy of her environment. That's the power of healing. It doesn't just change the healed, it changes everyone around them. Healed woman doesn't just rebuild her life, she reshapes the world around her. Her healing ripples through time, influencing hearts she'll never meet and generations she'll never see. Her healing becomes legacy. Because every time a woman chooses healing, she's not just rising for herself, she's rising for her mother, her daughter, her sister, her community, and her future. That's the sacred truth about healing. It doesn't end with you. It begins with you. You are the starting point of change. The world shifts when you heal. Healed hearts create healed homes. Healed homes create healed communities, and healed communities create a healed world. So keep healing, keep rising. Keep spreading peace through your presence and power through your growth, because your healing is not small, it is sacred. Every time you choose peace over pain, love over fear, and purpose over resentment, the ripple widens, and those waves of healing will continue to move long after your story is told. There comes a sacred moment in every woman's journey when she realizes that her past no longer has permission to define her present. It is the moment she looks at the scars that once made her ashamed and sees strength instead. It's when she no longer lives as a reflection of what broke her, as a testimony of what rebuilt her. The pain, the betrayal, the loss, the rejection, all of it once had a grip on her. It controlled how she saw herself, how she loved, how she trusted, how she dreamed. But now she has taken her power back. She is no longer controlled by her past, because she has learned that healing doesn't erase the story, it reclaims it. Once, her past dictated her steps. It whispered lies into her mind, telling her she wasn't enough, that she had missed her chance, that she was too damaged to begin again. Every decision she made was shadowed by what had already happened. Every opportunity was filtered through fear. Every relationship carried the echoes of old pain. She built walls instead of bridges, silence instead of truth, distance instead of connection. Heart had been trained to protect itself at any cost, even if that meant closing itself off from the very love and peace it longed for. But over time, something within her began to awaken. She grew tired of being haunted by memories she could not change. She grew weary of carrying pain that no longer belonged in her present. She realized that the only power her past had over her was the power she continued to give it. So she made a decision, one that changed everything. She decided to stop replaying the old scenes, to stop rehearsing old conversations, to stop reliving what was already over. She made peace with the fact that her past was a chapter, not her conclusion. Healing began when she stopped asking, "Why did this happen to me?" and started asking, "What did this teach me?" Instead of resenting the pain, she began to see it as the soil where her strength was planted. Every heartbreak had built her resilience. Every disappointment had sharpened her discernment. Every mistake had brought her closer to wisdom. The past was no longer her prison. It became her preparation. It was no longer a chain. It was a classroom. Now, when she looks back, she doesn't feel bitterness. She feels gratitude, because without the storm, she would never have discovered her power. Without the rejection, she would never have learned to validate herself. Without the heartbreak, she would never have learned to love herself first. She understands that every closed door redirected her toward purpose. Every painful ending was actually divine protection. What once broke her now builds her. What once limited her now liberates her. Being free from the past doesn't mean forgetting it. It means forgiving it. She forgives herself for what she didn't know then. She forgives the people who hurt her, not because they deserve peace, but because she deserves freedom. She no longer lets her mind replay the pain. She no longer lets her heart dwell on what could have been. She accepts that not everyone was meant to stay. Every season was meant to last, and not every experience was meant to be understood right away. Peace no longer depends on clarity, it depends on surrender. She is no longer the woman who hides her scars. She wears them as proof that she survived what was meant to destroy her. She speaks her truth without shame because she knows her past cannot be used against her. It made her stronger. The same things that once made her question her worth now remind her of it. She knows who she is, and more importantly, who she is not. She refuses to shrink herself to fit into old versions of her life that no longer align with her healing. When she interacts with people now, she doesn't react from her wounds. She responds from her wisdom. She doesn't seek revenge. She seeks release. She doesn't hold grudges. She holds grace. Because she knows that carrying anger only keeps her tied to what hurt her. Letting go doesn't mean what happened was right. It means she's ready to live beyond it. The more she releases, the lighter she becomes. The lighter she becomes, the freer she feels, and freedom is what defines her now. She wakes up each morning knowing that her value is not tied to her history, to her growth. She walks differently because she's no longer weighed down by regret. She speaks differently because she no longer feels the need to explain her pain. She loves differently because she no longer loves from emptiness, but from overflow. Her energy is calm, grounded, and untouchable because she's anchored in the present, not trapped in the past. When her mind tries to revisit old wounds, she reminds herself, that version of me no longer exists. The woman who tolerated disrespect, who stayed silent when she should have spoken, who accepted less than she deserved, she's gone. She's replaced by a woman who knows her worth, who honors her boundaries, who stands tall in her truth. The lessons were painful, but they were necessary. The past no longer holds her because she has outgrown it. People who once knew her old version may not recognize her now. They may try to bring up her mistakes, her failures, old habits, but their words no longer sting. She doesn't defend herself anymore. She doesn't need to. Growth is her evidence. Maturity is her response. Peace is her revenge. The only validation she seeks is from within, and the only direction she looks now is forward. Being free from the past also means being free from the identity it created. She no longer calls herself by the names her pain gave her: unworthy, broken, difficult, too much. She now calls herself powerful, purposeful, healed, and chosen. She no longer identifies with the moments she lost. She identifies with the strength that carried her through. Every time she chooses to rise, she proves that her past failed to defeat her. There's a quiet strength in her now, a strength that doesn't need to shout to be felt. You can see it in her eyes, hear it in her words, feel it in her presence. She has accepted her story, but she's no longer living inside of it. She's writing new chapters, ones filled with peace, joy, and alignment. She's no longer waiting for closure from others. She's found closure within herself. And that's what makes her unstoppable. Because nothing and no one can control a woman who's made peace with her past. She's not afraid of being misunderstood because she no longer explains her healing to those still living in their pain. She's not afraid of loss because she knows she can rebuild. She's not afraid of change because she knows growth requires it. Her strength doesn't come from what she holds on to. It comes from what she's willing to release. She understands that her past will always be a part of her story, but it will never again dictate her destiny. It's no longer a wound. It's wisdom. No longer a cage. It's clarity. No longer an anchor. It's her anointing. The same story that once broke her heart now fuels her purpose. She is no longer controlled by her past because she's finally free from its grip. She walks with peace in her soul and purpose in her steps. She's not looking back anymore. She's moving forward, stronger, wiser, and more radiant than ever. Her past may have shaped her, but it does not define her. She defines herself now, and that's the most powerful freedom there is. There is something extraordinary about a woman who has walked through pain, faced her fears, embraced her healing, and found her faith again. She no longer seeks validation from the world because she has discovered a strength within her that the world cannot take away. This strength is not loud, prideful, not boastful. It is sacred. It is divine. It is the quiet power that flows from her spirit, not her status. When she walks into a room, presence speaks before her words ever do. There's something different about her, something unexplainable yet undeniable. She embodies divine power. This power does not come from perfection. It comes from surrender. It is born out of the moments when she had nothing left but faith. When she was on her knees crying for answers that didn't come right away. When she had to keep walking with tears in her eyes, believing that somehow all things were still working together for her good. Divine power doesn't come from having an easy life. It comes from surviving a hard one and still keeping your heart open. It comes from trusting when everything looks uncertain. It comes from forgiving when the world expects you to hate. It comes from choosing peace when chaos surrounds you. She embodies divine power because she no longer operates from ego. She operates from alignment. She understands that her strength doesn't come from control. It comes from connection. She doesn't need to manipulate outcomes. She trusts divine timing. She doesn't need to chase opportunities. She attracts them through her faith and authenticity. Her confidence is not arrogance, it's assurance. She knows who she is because she knows who she is. She carries the understanding that she is divinely guided, protected, and positioned for purpose. There was a time when she felt powerless, when the opinions of others shaped her decisions, when rejection made her question her worth, when love that wasn't reciprocated made her doubt her value. But that version of her no longer exists. Through every heartbreak, she discovered resilience. Through every setback, she found strength. Through every betrayal, she learned discernment. And through every loss, she realized that the divine had never left her side. She now understands that what she thought was breaking her was actually building her. Divine power is not about dominance, it's about direction. She moves with intention. She listens more than she speaks. She doesn't rush, she aligns. She doesn't fight for attention. She commands respect simply by being authentic. Her spirit has become her compass. She follows peace. Peace never leads her wrong. This is a woman who knows that divine power doesn't need to prove itself. It just is. Her faith is her foundation. She wakes up knowing that she's covered, that she's guided, that even when she doesn't understand the path, she trusts the purpose. She doesn't just pray for blessings. She prays for clarity, wisdom, and strength to carry them. She's learned that divine power isn't about getting everything you want. It's about becoming everything you were created to be. Glow about her that doesn't come from material success. It comes from spiritual peace. She's done trying to force outcomes or fix people. She's learned to let go and let God. She's learned that not everything that leaves her life is a loss, and not every delay is a denial. When something doesn't work out, she doesn't panic. She pauses. She knows divine protection often looks like rejection. She trusts that if it's meant for her, it won't miss her. That trust gives her a supernatural calm that others can't comprehend. Divine power has also changed how she loves. She no longer loves from a place of need, but from a place of overflow. She doesn't give to be seen. She gives because love is her nature. She no longer begs to be chosen. She understands she already is, by purpose, by destiny, by divine design. Her relationships are now rooted in mutual growth, not dependency. She doesn't settle for connection that drains her spirit. Her love has become an extension of her faith, strong, compassionate, but discerning. When she speaks, her words carry weight. They carry healing, wisdom, peace. She's not interested in gossip or comparison. She's focused on growth and elevation. She doesn't compete because she knows what's hers cannot be taken. She celebrates others because she's not threatened by their light. She recognizes it. Woman who embodies divine power understands that rising together is stronger than rising alone. Her power also lies in her stillness. She doesn't have to force doors open. Her presence unlocks them. She doesn't need to chase recognition. Her authenticity commands it. She understands that silence can be louder than noise and grace more powerful than revenge. She no longer wastes energy proving her worth. She spends it building her peace, nurturing her gifts, and walking in purpose. There's a sacred confidence in her that says, I've been through fire, and I still shine. She no longer hides her scars. They are her crown. Every lesson, every tear, every test has become part of her divine armor. She's not bitter about what she lost because she knows it made room for what's coming. She doesn't dwell on what broke her because she's too focused on what's blooming. Her story is no longer one of survival, it's one of divine transformation. This woman moves differently because she is no longer driven by fear. Fear used to hold her back. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of being alone. But she's learned that fear is loudest right before a breakthrough. Now, she sees fear as a signal, not a stop sign. She's learned to move anyway, to walk even when the path is unclear, to trust even when the outcome is unknown. That's divine power, acting in faith, not in fear. And because she lives in alignment, everything she touches begins to flourish. Presence brings calm to chaos. Her words bring light to confusion. Her spirit brings warmth to cold spaces. She doesn't even have to try. It's just who she is now. Her energy heals, inspires, and uplifts because it flows from a source that never runs dry. Divine power also gives her discernment. She knows when to speak and when to stay silent, when to fight and when to let go, when to move and when to wait. She's no longer led by impulse, but by insight. She listens to the still, small voice within her and trusts it. She's learned that her intuition is not random. It's divine guidance, whispering truth into her spirit. When storms come, she doesn't panic. She stands still, knowing that what was meant to shake her will only strengthen her. Her peace is her weapon. Her faith is her fortress. Her love is her legacy. She has learned that divine power isn't about avoiding the storm. It's about knowing who you are in the middle of it. And now, she radiates purpose. Her life is proof that divine alignment is real. She has become an example of what happens when a woman surrenders control and allows her creator to lead. She embodies divine power because she doesn't try to be everything to everyone. She simply becomes everything she was created to be. She's no longer searching for power. She is power, refined, restored, and renewed. Her walk is purpose. Her words are truth. Her presence is peace. She doesn't just exist anymore. She reigns, not from pride, but from grace, not from ego, but from elevation, not from pain, but from purpose. There is something extraordinary that happens when a woman decides to heal, not just to move on, not just to pretend she's fine, but to truly face her pain, confront her past, and reclaim her peace. The moment she chooses healing over hiding, growth over guilt, and purpose over pain, something within her shifts. She becomes untouchable, not because she's never hurt again, but because she's learned how to rise no matter what tries to break her. I challenge, a healed woman becomes unstoppable. She wasn't always this strong. There was a time when her heart was fragile, when her tears fell quietly in the dark. When she didn't know if she would ever feel whole again, she poured herself into people who didn't pour back. She tried to prove her worth to those who couldn't see it. She carried guilt for things that were never her fault. Her spirit was tired, her mind was heavy, and her confidence was buried beneath years of self-doubt. But even then, there was a fire inside her. flickering, waiting, refusing to die. That fire was her purpose calling her home. Healing didn't come easily. It came through nights of questioning, moments of breaking, and seasons of silence. She had to let go of what she once thought she couldn't live without. She had to face the truth about herself, her choices, people she gave her heart to. Healing stripped away her illusions, but in return, it revealed her truth. It took everything that wasn't meant for her and replaced it with everything she was always meant to become. At first, healing felt like loss. It felt like she was losing everything familiar, people, places, patterns. But over time, she realized that healing wasn't taking from her, it was freeing her. It was removing what was blocking her peace. It was clearing the path for what was truly aligned with her destiny. Every ending became a doorway. Every disappointment became direction. Every heartbreak became preparation. What once broke her now built her into a woman who knows how to bend without breaking, who knows how to stand tall even in the midst of chaos. A healed woman becomes unstoppable because she's no longer fighting battles that aren't hers to fight. She's no longer chasing after love that costs her peace. She's no longer explaining herself to people committed to misunderstanding her. She's no longer trying to prove her value, she knows it. She no longer looks backward for validation because she's too busy looking forward to destiny. She's not interested in revenge, attention, or applause. Her joy is internal. Her validation comes from within. Her motivation comes from purpose, not pain. Before healing, her emotions controlled her. Now she controls them. Before she reacted from her wounds, now she responds from her wisdom. Before she tried to fix others, now she focuses on her own growth. She's learned that peace is power, that silence can be strength. That walking away is sometimes the most courageous thing she can do. She's no longer afraid of solitude because she's learned that solitude is where God speaks, where clarity comes, and where transformation begins. A healed woman doesn't chase opportunities, she attracts them. Her energy speaks before she does. People can feel her peace, her confidence, her resilience. She carries herself with a quiet authority that says, I've been through too much to doubt myself now. Her presence is magnetic because it's authentic. She doesn't need to pretend or perform. She's already aligned. Her healing has made her so grounded that she no longer craves what she's outgrown. She becomes unstoppable because she's learned to let go without losing herself. She doesn't fight to keep people who choose to leave. She doesn't beg for understanding. She no longer sees endings as rejection. She sees them as redirection. She understands that every closed door is divine protection. She's no longer moved by external chaos because her internal world is finally at peace. She's not afraid of change. She embraces it because she knows growth cannot exist without it. Her past no longer defines her, it refines her. The same experiences that once brought her to her knees are now the foundation she stands on. The same tears that once blinded her now give her clarity. The same rejection that once broke her spirit now fuels her resilience. She has learned that strength doesn't mean she never falls. It means she never stays down. Every time life tried to silence her, she came back stronger, wiser, and more centered. She's unstoppable because she's found herself again. She knows what she deserves. She knows what she's capable of. She knows what peace feels like, and she refuses to settle for anything less. Her healing has sharpened her vision. She can see through pretense, through manipulation, through anything that doesn't align with love, truth, and purpose. She no longer entertains situations that disturb her peace. She knows that not everything that wants her deserves her. And her confidence, it's unshakable, not because she's never insecure, because she's learned that insecurity is temporary when you're rooted in truth. Her confidence comes from her relationship with herself. She honors her emotions, listens to her intuition, and values her boundaries. She no longer apologizes for being too much, too loud, or too strong. She understands that the right people will never be intimidated by her light. They'll be inspired by it. Healed woman is unstoppable because she leads with love, not fear. She knows that true power is not in controlling others, but in mastering herself. She doesn't seek to compete. She seeks to uplift. She knows that empowering others doesn't diminish her. It multiplies her impact. She moves through the world with grace, compassion, and wisdom, and that makes her a force no one can silence. Her faith is unshakable. She's seen too much not to believe. She's learned that when everything falls apart, grace holds it together. She trusts divine timing. She doesn't panic in the waiting because she knows what's meant for her cannot be delayed forever. Her spirit has been tested, but her faith has never failed her. She knows that everything she lost was replaced with something better. Peace, clarity, purpose. She's not afraid anymore. She's not afraid of failure because she knows how to rise. She's not afraid of rejection because she knows her worth. She's not afraid of endings because she knows every ending carries a new beginning. She has faced the worst and still found beauty, still found gratitude, still found herself. Nothing can intimidate a woman who has already rebuilt her life from the ground up. When a woman heals, she becomes a light in every dark place she once feared. She becomes the voice of hope for others who are still finding their way. She becomes a reminder that broken doesn't mean finished, that endings can be the beginning of something greater. Her story becomes her strength. Her scars become her message. Her growth becomes her glory. A healed woman becomes unstoppable because she is no longer powered by pain. She is powered by purpose. She's not just living anymore. She's leading, inspiring, evolving, and becoming. Life no longer happens to her, it happens through her. She has mastered the art of turning pain into wisdom and challenges into elevation. Every step she takes now is guided by strength, anchored in peace, fueled by faith. She doesn't need validation, permission, or approval. She's already enough. She knows that no one can take what's divinely hers. Power doesn't come from her position, it comes from her presence. She's unbreakable not because she's never been broken, because she's learned how to rebuild herself stronger every time. So when you see her walking with calm confidence, know this: she's not arrogant. She's awakened. She's not cold. She's clear. She's not hard. She's healed. And that's what makes her unstoppable. Because once a woman heals, there's nothing left that can hold her back. She's living proof that broken things can still bloom, that endings can still birth beginnings, and that healing isn't the end of the story. It's the start of her becoming everything she was always meant to be.